Okay, it is 11:30. We are starting. Audio is good. Seems like video is good, and uh, episode is on. So this video is named episode 3.5 Community Outreach. We did Banners of NA episode 3, I think just yesterday or the day before, or something like that, and we had lots of comments on that one. It was very it's a very deep and broad conversation, and we've had some people who would like to come on and share their point of view. Not a team leader this time, but just a community member. And I say just a community member, but the entire community is made of just community members. There's nobody else that plays this game or watches the content or spends money on the community. So this is the backbone of our society, the players. And so the show is as much about getting the thoughts and the feelings of these players as much as the clan leaders. Although it will be obviously the nature of it a different type of conversation, the essence of the show is kept the same. So it's just a mini episode. We're going to talk about some things, shed some light on perspectives that maybe the previous clan leaders we talked to on the show didn't have, and hopefully everybody walks away learning something they didn't know before. So with that, I will have the guest, Classy Dots, say his opening words to the audience, and then I guess just open us up with whatever whatever topic you would like to set the conversation on first.
Sure. Yeah, I'm ClassyDots. I've been playing Mountain Blade since I was like 15 years old, mainly in the NW scene. Um, I then took a very long break in the wait for Bannerlord 2. Bannerlord 2 came out pretty shitty, so I waited for multiplayer to pop off. Actually joined Atria when I decided to get back in the multiplayer scene. And from there, I rose through the ranks, becoming the second command for Atria. Um, and then we'll get to all this stuff, but I ended up leaving Atria back in December of 2024, the end of December, and I joined VK. I'm now a Baron for VK. My current plans right now are to kind of step down from leadership in VK and focus more on the community, helping admin events, helping people like Amy Listed with their Order of Whispers, and just kind of give back to the community, and try to get us into a good spot. The little bit I could do with that. Today I kind of want to go over some of the questions that were asked to Zach when Zach was on the podcast, and kind of shed some light and say the truth of my side and a lot of other people's sides.
Okay. Yeah, and that's just like a court in a jury. We have the witnesses, kind of giving their side of it. And for some reason, now I don't know how most of the audience feels. We had two people in the last episode mention that having both Zach and Les on was not a good idea. I believe one of them was from Atria. I don't know where the other one was from, but it seems like there's a wide split in this community that has a lot of facets, and people that are just coming into the scene now or just learning about all of this stuff. What would you tell them before we start getting into this conversation about like the backstory between how all of these sides and kind of personal disputes started happening? Was there ever a time in NA where it was just like kind of more chill, more happy, more unified?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say when it comes to the split between Atria and VK, the kind of disagreements that we have, most of it comes down to, both clans have had their share of toxicity. When I was in Atria, when I first joined Atria, it wasn't a very liked clan. Uh, you know, Part of being in Atria was reforming it, giving it a different name. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was told to go kill myself because I was in Atria, I was wearing the tags. But at the same time, um, VK's also had their bad raps, and they are reforming as well too. So it more or less comes down to, why would VK be judged for, things done in the past when Atria has done some pretty nasty things in the past too, and they reformed and kind of made themselves a little different. But when it comes to the split, I feel like, everyone has a problem with VK. I mean, it's just how it is. They don't like that VK is the best faction that's in the NA community. Um, and they have a lot to back it up. So, when someone calls them out for it, they're gonna push back. They're not gonna let some of their clans say they're not good enough. So I think that's where it kind of starts. Just petty stuff. And then Les is a very big character. So when it comes to having Les and Zach in the same channel, I think Les would dominate that conversation. I don't think Zach would stand a chance in a little conversation bout with Les.
Well, I mean, this is a kind of an unmoderated environment. We try to keep it a little bit structured, but it's supposed to be an open, structured, conversation forums. So, yeah, I would see how Les's type of personality could conflict with the more balanced nature that we want to achieve here. Um, I would say that it would be something to try maybe in the future, maybe after many other things, but yeah, continue please.
Yeah. And then it kind of got to where it was kind of when Les kind of made a very big appearance back into the community. He wanted to really focus on the community, and this was back in I want to say October last year. That's just a rough estimate. It might be earlier, might be a little later.
Okay.
But he came back to community. Atria had the multiplayer event going on, and Les joined. Kind of liked it, had some problems with it, but saw potential in the event. And at this time, I was in Atria. So my job in Atria was to help lead the event. Zach kind of stayed on more of the side of everything. And then during that time that Les was trying to help, they actually met in person. Zach and Les met in person, believe it or fucking not.
Okay, so
Um,
I've heard this story, and I
yeah.
wasn't given, I don't think I was given like all the details, so I was kind of like left thinking after the episodes, was this like, did they meet up to like fight, or was this like a dinner sort of situation,
No,
or
no, yeah, yeah,
did they go
yeah, yeah. Like a
skiing or roller skating
friend's.
together?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Les has a weird thing about meeting up with people that he plays games with and just hanging out, having a good time.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, a lot of clans do that. I've done that.
so eventually, obviously, while they met up in real life, the talk came up to the event, and Zach talked to him about the event and stuff, and Les was like, you know what, I'll help you with the event. Um, at the time, the event was only getting like maybe 100 people per event, and we were happy with that, but we definitely wanted more, but we just couldn't get the other clans to commit. So Bless, thinking that, oh, me and Zach met in real life, he wants me to join the event and kind of just give my opinion. Why don't I take it a step further for the community and bring more people? So Les brought his own group, like 60 people, 50 to 60 people each event. And then he also got other clans to commit even more, like Getty, Tanyam. Tanyam always showed up, but not in, they didn't really rally call for it. So after Les, kind of committed, they committed more numbers, and then he got a few other clans to join,
And you would
and
say
we got
like
the event up to 240.
that kind of increase in interest and commitment from the other clans was a like a direct result of Les, you would say?
Oh yeah, 100%. And at the time, I was in Atria as a help leading the event and making it better. And Les helped out, took a lot of stress off. It was definitely Les that got the numbers up there. So I'm pretty sure you can imagine how he would feel after Atreus said, "Oh, you're not allowed to come to the event anymore."
Yeah, I understand how that would be a bit of a shock.
Yeah. Which all of Zach's leadership at the time did not agree with that decision to keep VK from the event. Um, a lot of Zach's leadership are really good guys, and they really want what's best for the community. Um, I guess I should say former leadership because none of his previous leadership are there anymore, um, for reasons like that.
Okay. And okay, so as a slight tangent to this, but kind of in the similar vein, um, this kind of climax of the dispute where VK was restricted from these Atria events, that was like right when I started joining. That was right when I got into multiplayer from single player.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that I heard, and I won't say any names or give like too much elaboration, but the reason that I heard for that was maybe not mainly, but the reason that was cited, at least, was that VK was known for poaching, which was like I guess universally hated. It's like the worst sin in a
Right.
multiplayer MMO community. Um, is there any validity to that, and how much of the hatred for VK and its kind of presence in the community was due to poaching? Because that was the main reason that was cited for restricting them from these events, and just the general bad attitude in
Uh,
GCs.
yeah. So there was a incident of poaching. There was a guy that was in Atria, just a lower rank like a levy. He just joined. He didn't really like and I'm just speaking off what he's told us. He didn't really like the RP aspect of Atria. So we have an application system in VK. You make a ticket, you put your application in, and you put like your recruiter. Well, that recruiter didn't really know that he was poaching this guy, and so when Les found out that it was a potential poach, he denied his application. The guy had to message Les directly to join VK, and he also had to send a message to his leader because that's just how it works in Atria. You have a leader, whether it's Zach or one of the other Barons. He had to send a message to them saying, "Hey, I don't like it here. I'd rather join VK." So we don't really condone poaching in VK. We don't poach. Um, we don't do that. It's just not good for us, and especially with our reform, we don't want to do anything like that. The reform, we're taking out people that are too toxic, that say racial slurs, stuff like that. We've kicked over like 10 good people at the game, but they're too toxic and they kind of ruin the name of VK. So that's where that all started, of the accusations of poaching on VK.
Okay. And you said something interesting there about the Reformation. Can I ask how long this reform has been going on within VK? Because I think Zach Atria mentioned yesterday about a reform within Atria, and I'm not sure whether that's like post this kind of exodus of these other clans, or whether it's a more long-term thing that's been going on for a while. Can you shed some light on within the VK community how long this particular reform has been going on?
Hmm. Part of the reason why I joined VK at the time that I did is because of the reform that was going on in VK. If Les would have kept his same stuff, I probably wouldn't have joined. But Les has been reforming since October, so way before me. So I definitely came in at the easier part of the reform, where people are kind of getting used to it and it's easier to enforce. And then the Atria reform, I mean, Atria has had instances of people leaving his faction. KOTF, Gage is a former Atrian, second in command Atrian
We
actually.
did hear yesterday, yes.
So he left too because of the quote unquote disagreements with Zach. I don't know a lot about that situation, so I'm not going to comment on it. Uh, but that leader did leave, um, and this has happened to Zach about 4 times. So, in my opinion, if you have factions splitting off from you so many times, I think maybe you're the problem.
There's something that could be said for that. I think FMGK, or I think Zach also mentioned the rise and fall of like interest in PB being linked to clan success here.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure how much of the overlap with like the PB interaction decides a lot of the incoming and outgoing from Atria, or any other clans actually, for that matter. I haven't been here long enough. Can you shed some light on a little bit of the, maybe not the internal politics, but what characterizes the reform in VK? What is so, are there like structured like policy set things that he wants to see gone or wants to see there that weren't there before? Besides
Yes. Let
just the
me
toxicity
let
in
me
general.
backtrack a little bit. I missed something on the way on the poaching thing.
Okay.
Just 2 seconds on that. We Atria used to attend BRE events, the EU event. Do you know about it?
Uh yes, I've participated
Uh,
in plenty of them, yes.
yeah, huge, right? Amazing, right? We used to attend that. Well, Zach got caught poaching BRE members, and that's why Atria and BRE are not good. BRE will not come to Atria events or support the Atria community, even though they have an NA section in the BRE. They're EU faction, but they have an NA detachment. Zach was caught poaching those NA members, and now Zach cannot join BRE events. Anyone at Atria tags cannot be in there. Anyway, back to the reform of VK. Yeah, yeah. Les has spelled it out for his members, what he expects in the reform. I would say it's kind of, we shouldn't really be saying reform anymore because VK is reformed. It is
Okay.
it is reformed.
So is the current kind of interaction with VK what should be expected from the perspective of other clans?
What do you mean?
Like, if VK has gone through this metamorphosis and has kind of changed its style and rebranded, maybe not rebranded, but just kind of gone through this change, should
Mhm.
the kind of situation now, the community now, the way that VK interacts and the things it publishes, the things it does, should that be taken from today onward as like what VK is like? Like, should we expect any changes in the near future? Should we expect other behavior coming from like the leadership and Les himself?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Leadership behavior is very important to represent VK. When it comes down to lower ranks, you invite some people to the clan and they're new, and then they say something or do something that's not okay, they're gone. It's just as simple as that. If you want to be in VK, you have to follow the rules that we have set. You have to, you know, be what we want VK to be. And VK is a Christian faction, like in real life.
Okay.
Um, so that's kind of what we do. We post like you know Christianity quotes and stuff like that. Obviously, not everybody wants to see that, but that's just part of the thing that we reformed. But yeah, it's a totally different VK, and that's one thing I was worried about. Is the reform actually working when I joined? And it is. It's not as it was before. Les is a different person. A lot of those people in there are changed.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, well, it seems like well, okay. Here's the transition. It was previously VK, I'm talking about, was previously kind of a place with a lot of people. You can't control everybody. There's a lot of bad attitude, and then from the top down, there's a reformation. Is it more of a zero? This is a minor question, not my next question. Is it more of a zero tolerance policy, or is it more of like a, if you mess up, we'll sit down and talk to you, and you get two warnings?
There's punishments like, Les has played with these guys for years, right?
Okay.
So you can imagine how hard it is to kick someone that's been there for 8 years. Um,
Yeah.
so
And I imagine if you've been playing with someone for that long, then if they are like, "Hey, you just can't do these, kind of weird things in this public server," then I'm sure that they won't, be too butthurt over it, right?
right. Most of them have respected the reform, um, kind of chilled out on some of that stuff. But I will say there are warnings given where they shouldn't be. But at the same time, Les is these are the OG guys. It's hard to kick those guys. So he has done a couple of them, and it hurt him a lot to do. But he's very serious about what he wants, so he's getting it done.
Okay. So we had a VK that was, I guess, the boogeyman of the community. They have a top-down reform since what, October. Um, in April. What is this? April. It's April now. It's the second day of April for those of you who haven't gone outside yet. Um, we have a VK who, I mean, I is very willing to talk to the community and let their ideas be known and make their stuff public. The first episode of the show was Les. So, how would you say the community can come into maybe not contact, because there's still a lot of people who avoid contact and some people who aren't even allowed to contact you even if they wanted to. How would you say that the community can come to know more of what VK is now if they I guess if they aren't convinced? Are there ways that people can kind of be exposed to the new squad of VK? I mean, I'm sure you'll still be playing like games like PB, you'll still be in like skirmish or stuff like that, you'll still doing tournaments, so you're gonna kill the other teams. But what will be different in your interaction with the other teams that will make them say VK has changed?
Um, it's as simple as like if you're a new person and you've heard things about VK, join VK and see for yourself. There are so many people that will hop in a VC, train you, teach you everything you need to know, make you a blocking man. I've definitely improved being in VK versus Atria. Um, that's one of the things. Like our community is very open. You have a separate leader from Les, so you have a Baron. Reach out to him. He'll train you. He'll show you the game. He'll make friends with you, and that's kind of what we're going for. We want everyone to kind of be friends with each other and kind of like tight knit.
Okay.
Um, and then the other way, in the PB scene, Les has banned halting to commoners or overall like new players. So we don't mess with any of the new player base in PB. We don't want to ruin their experience because we need multiplayer people. So
Wow. That is probably one of the most shocking things I've heard all day. It's only 11 a.m.,
right.
but it's one of the most shocking things I've heard all day. You're saying that the leader of PB for his players has introduced a top-down mandate that VK players are not allowed to halt commoners. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Correct.
It's incredible. Now, I won't say a lot more NA players should do that, but maybe they should. I was exploring actually PB a couple days ago because I'm still new to PB. And I got halted, and I was trying to like explain to them that I didn't know how to open my purse, and they killed me. I didn't. Okay. The thing is, they didn't even let me take out my sword. I thought this was a medieval game. Like they should at least stand back a couple of paces and let you pull out your sword so you can have a good fight. These aren't even bandits. These are just low lives. So
Right.
more clans should do that. And understand, I suppose, that if there's like a public post on like Reddit or YouTube of a VK man halting a commoner, there's gonna be a shit show. So we
Yeah,
better
there
we
is.
better make sure
There's.
that's
There's.
enforced.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just know that guy's gonna get an earful if he does do that.
That's a warning to all you VK members. All right, thank you for that. It's a very interesting thing that I just heard.
And at the same time, we're also a little bit too busy fucking up the other factions to even mess with the commoner. So
That's true. That's true. Now, okay, so speaking of busy, when Les was on the show, and this has been this has been mentioned in other places, I think, since. He mentioned how he hired some, I believe it was Chinese serfs for like whenever the main player base is offline, and they do like
Mhm.
like minor tasks in PB. Um, we didn't talk about it before, but there was another kind of contentious issue that people had with VK. I'm not sure if this was addressed in the reform, but people were mentioning how not only does he like hire, foreign people for the games, but also there is a rumor, and I'm not sure if this is completely true, that he pays his players. They're on not like an official salary, but like they get like, you know, money every so
Mhm.
often for playing for him for that purpose. Is that true? Is there any legitimacy to that? Is that something that you'd like to address, or something that Les talks about with the leadership?
Yeah, it's more of a stretched truth. It just comes down to, one of his guys go through a hard time and Les does really good for himself, so he'll help them out. Um, and that's just Les is just, he's not gonna sit here and try to defend himself every time someone says he pays his players. He's just gonna go along with the joke and keep it funny.
Okay.
Um, Funny enough, when I first joined VK, he's like, I hope you're not expecting a salary joining. And I'm like, no, no, I'm not. But no, it just comes down to, he helps his guys out when they're going through tough times. He does pretty well for himself. Um, so that's really the what it is. Les isn't gonna come out and say that, but I will say that he
Okay.
doesn't pay his members like that. He doesn't pay them a salary to play the game. He's
I
just
I can see how
he's a really
like
good guy.
if someone sharing a little bit of charity for someone that they know, and that kind of gets spent into paying the
Right.
majority of your
It's
players or
just
something like that.
spend. That's all it is.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's so if you're an NA player and you think that disagreements with your clan leader is going to lead to you joining VK and getting a cool $20 and then leaving, it's not going to happen, okay? It's not going
Not
to
gonna
happen.
happen.
Not that rich. We're not that rich yet,
Nope.
but subscribe to the podcast maybe one day.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So, what is the next topic that you have for us?
Well, I feel like we've done the pleasantries and kind of talk diplomacy. So I feel like now it's just getting a little nitty gritty of things.
All right, yeah.
Go over some drama that Zach very smartly didn't want to get into. I understand his diplomatic approach to this podcast. Um, so, for all the viewers, for everyone seeing this, if you watch the Zach interview, I'm actually the person that Zach has accused of having access to his server and deleting all of his files and screenshots and everything else he said. Um, for the record, that is not true. I did not do that. Um, while I have the login access, I don't actually have access to that stuff. I never did. It never worked for me. And in fact, Zach was in the military, so I'm not sure what it was, but I think he had to go do training and field training, and he was gone for I think a month and a half. And for about a month and a half, we didn't have an HRN event because I couldn't get the stuff to work. So it's just totally untrue. If we really want to get into what we think happened, somebody probably just saw the drama that was going on between VK and Atra and thought it wasn't enough. So, and Zach has a lot of enemies, so it's really hard to pinpoint who it is. Um, but yeah, I feel like somebody just saw the situation, wanted to add fuel to the fire, and maybe hack Zach or did whatever they do. Um, Obviously, they're a troll because if you look at Zach's Atria uh, Steam community, Steam group, uh, there's a person that is made the leader of that group, and whoever did that probably was trolling really hard because that person is a known troll.
Mm. So do you think it was a like someone who was enemies with Zach that was so passionate that he got access to like a hacker or like learned hacking himself? Or do you think it was like a malicious person that just like wanted to fuck over a random guy that happened to be Zach when he was on
No,
leave?
I don't think it's by chance. I think whoever did it definitely knew Zach in the situation. Zach told a lot of people about the whole VK drama, so somebody had to have just saw that and decided to fuck around. Um, it was pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy to hear when it happened. And I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. And it was even crazier when they told me that Zach thinks I did it. Which also I would like to say Zach's, former leadership, none of them thought it was me. They all came to the same conclusion that somebody saw the situation and wanted to add fuel to the fire.
Hmm. Yeah, that is interesting. Do you think there's any chance of like a rogue agent, not saying that Les like hired Chinese hackers to fuck with
Yeah.
Zach, but do you think maybe someone not even associated with VK even, but one of Zach's many enemies, whoever else they are that call him enemies, um would have some kind of technical skill or access to that kind of malicious activity?
Mhm. I mean, this community has been known for, you know, doxing and getting your address and swatting you and stuff like that. So there definitely is a possibility of that happening, just without me having quote unquote access or anything like that. Um, yeah, I don't know. It had to have been somebody that is a known troll though, for sure.
And you, for instance, so I mean, this whatever happened would have had to have been done by a guy who, and I mean, obviously, like we don't know exactly who did it. Like you could be fucking with me right now. You could have done it and just been playing like 4D chess with me. I don't really
Right.
think you did, but whoever did this would have had to have had like access to either good hacking knowledge, I guess a personal relationship, a negative personal relationship with Zach or someone with an atria. Um, and from what I'm hearing, many of those people exist within the Bannerlord community. Uh, is there, do you think, any basis for like, I don't know, some kind of legal dispute here? Like, could we get an FBI or like a technical agency on it? Was there any financial loss from this? Any kind of like personal doxing? Because I think that can, I don't know. We could probably find who did it, basically, is what I'm saying. If
Yeah,
we get
yeah, yeah.
the like authorities
That's
involved. But I'm not sure if this is big enough to get authorities involved. I wouldn't want to get them like, oh, a guy, got my password and then logged into my account when I didn't want him to. It would have to be like a big thing.
I mean that would be the perfect scenario. Is finding who did it and doing having like police involved and stuff like that. But it's just so hard to fucking pinpoint, and the only person that could really find that out is Zach. I'm sure there's some way to find out, like, who was fucking with your share, or at least maybe grab an IP or something. I don't really know because I didn't see Zach's computer when all that happened, so I don't know what he saw.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't think we have anyone in the community that's a fucking excellent hacker that can cover his steps. So I definitely think there's some crumbs left behind somewhere, and we just don't know how to look for it.
Yes. So I mean, for example, like I'm learning HTML, CSS like right now in my spare time.
Mm.
What little spare time I have. And say like if I had produced a whole bunch of projects and if I had been very proficient, if I had produced like websites and things like that, and then I was like say in VK high leadership position and then VK and Atria fell out and Atria got hacked, people might suspect me because I'm they know I'm a good coder, they know I'm
Hmm.
good with computers and technical stuff. So if there's nobody like that, then um that leaves us with less breadcrumbs. But I mean if Zach Atria is listening, uh I would definitely look out for any financial or personal information loss because that is basis for a legal investigation by somebody. Maybe I mean we know that our country's kind of in a shit show right now. There's a lot that they're dealing with, but if you lost something, you're entitled to those kind of resources from the
The
government.
compensation, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at least the investigation, at least the looking into it, figuring out who did it. And the reason I say that is because the question I was going to ask before was, is there any kind of, because the split between your and Zach's relationship comes at this I guess this event, this incident that happened. I may be compounded with the fact that you were in Atria and now you're in VK, for whatever that means to him. Um, is there any chance of reconciliation between you and Zach on the basis that you weren't the guy that hacked into his account? Like, if he finds that out for sure, is there? Do you think there's any chance of mending that relationship? Not you going back to Atria, but like, being on like a naming basis. Saying hi every once in a while, like joining the same games, like having no problem with working with each other, either in server or out of server. Is there any chance of
you
that?
know, there's a chance for me. There's not a chance for Zach. Zach is very stuck in his ways. Um, and another point I was going to bring onto the whole hacking situation is all that was happening, all that drama was happening. Why the fuck would me or even less fuck with Zach like that? Knowing we would be the prime suspect,
Yeah,
right? It doesn't make
yeah,
any fucking sense. Um,
yeah. You always suspect
if
a wife.
yeah, you're right, right, right. So it's just like, why the fuck would we do something like that? Anyway, no, Zach's very stuck in his ways. He wouldn't. I feel like after I left, actually, um, when I left, Zach told Les to not give me any leadership position, which was crazy because at the time, I left on pretty okay terms. I didn't really take anyone with me. I just said, hey, this isn't for me anymore. I'm not going to do this. Uh, so I decided to leave, and that's the message that Les got.
Okay.
Talking about his previous second in command. Hey, don't give him leadership. Like, what was up with that? Because I considered Zach a very good friend of mine. So that was kind of like put a sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get it though. I mean, I've played other games in the past. I've been a clan leader in other kind of communities before, and I kind of get the sting of, having a guy in your squad for so long, and then you've kind of helped him and trained him and developed your skills together, and then you see him go, and use those skills somewhere else. It is a little bit of a hit, but that's more of a thing that the leader has to put aside,
Hmm.
I guess for the greater good, if not just for the personal sanity, because it's not like the other person thinks about it as much as a clan leader, and I know that personally. So, to answer my question, you say that there is a chance of reconciliation if Zach would be open to it, but I guess maybe the attitude that he gives off, makes you think that it's not something in his interest.
Yeah, he has a very big ego, and that's saying a lot. For me being in VK, because Les has a very big ego,
Mm-hmm.
but Zach's ego is a little bit more toxic. Les is the best, right? Les is the best leader. He has the best clan. Zach does not. Zach is not very good at the game. He does not have the best clan. He does not have the best idea of a clan. So it's all just ego. There's nothing to back it up.
Okay. And touching again on the kind of the clan reforms, you said VK had been reforming since October, and you say they're pretty much done with it now. Um,
Mhm.
do you know if Atria is still in their reform phase, or if they're still kind of reconsidering their attitudes with everything, and kind of taking another look at how they what position they play in the community?
So when Zach says reform, it doesn't actually mean he's going to change anything. He just means he's getting new leadership to fill those leadership roles that have left. Um, he's not going to change anything about Atria or their position on things. That's not what his quote unquote reform is for. I wouldn't even call it a reform. I just call it a restructure within. It's not for the face of Atria. It's just for the internal issues that Zach has.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I guess that answers my question. We'll have to see if any Atrians or Zach himself has another perspective on what reform means to him and Atria. But as far as from what we can see from like the primary source angle, VK seems to have changed their attitude. Well, made the effort to kind of establish, to mandate that they change their attitude from what it used to be. So there's kind of an active effort in it, which is admirable. Um, I like how they have taken efforts to kind of be nicer to the community in games like PB. I don't know how that would extend to other, battle modes. You can't really do that. But in games like PB or, maybe other games that open up soon, maybe we'll see a chance. We'll get a chance to see VK in more of a noble, chaotic good type of situation. Is there was there any other topics that you had brought for us?
Yeah, I guess we can go over. I'll call it the fall of Atria,
Okay.
or like the fourth falling of Atria, I should
Oh,
say.
yes. Okay. So in the conversation, episode 3, I had asked Zach, I think the words were something around the lines of the mass exodus of the big clans happened because of like an event that happened that the clans wanted to go to that Zach didn't want them to go to, and that kind of split caused them to leave. He said that wasn't true. He gave a little bit more of a detailed kind of in-depth explanation that makes a little bit more sense, all things considered. But do you have another side to present as far as what caused that kind of explosion?
I do. So, when I was first in Atria, after our mass reform, and we at that time, this was like a year ago. At that time, we were like 10 people strong, active. Um, so what Zach wanted to do is he started the Atria remastered. No one's ever done that. Remaster the multiplayer and make
Mm-hmm.
custom armors and stuff like that. Well, the EU scene has, but the NA scene has never seen anything like that.
Yes.
So we started that, reformed, got where we wanted to be with the mod and stuff. Um, it was a very rough start. Yeah, it was only HRE versus Atria every event, and HRE only brings like 5 guys, 5 pretty good guys. Um, so that was our event for a good month, or a good couple months, I should say. And with the structure of Atria, how the ranking structure works is there's the king, which is Zach. Then there's a baron. Now that baron is actually a clan within Atria, so they're Atrian, but they still have their own freedom and their own clan, or that's what Zach wants them to think anyway. It really doesn't play out like that when we really get down to it. But most of the people we got were from merges, so we would contact these people, set up a meeting with them, and I was in charge of this just because I talk better than Zach does.
So would you say you were
Uh,
like a diplomat role that went and corresponded with other
yeah,
kind of, or were you more of a chancellor that handled most of the foreign and internal affairs?
I had so many jobs, man. I
Okay,
had so
okay, we'll get to
yeah,
them.
yeah. So that was one of my jobs, right? Is to secure merges. Zach would come in and he would show off the mod. He was pretty good at showing what we do, and then I would have to kind of reel him in and see what their problem would be in joining. See what their oh man, what word am I looking for? See what the
Any barriers to
reservations
joining
are.
clans? Yeah.
Right. If they have any reservations about joining, what are they? Um, so one of those people, I won't say his name, but if he ever wants to speak on this on here, he can. Um, Part of a couple of the stipulations of him joining were he would keep some aspect of his clan and join Atria. That was agreed upon, right? That was agreed upon by me and Zach that
Okay.
we would, make him a custom banner, and all the banners in Atria are custom. They're all custom made.
Is there like
So it's
a
really
central banner maker, or is it like people bring their own designs?
coat of arms. coat of arms. There's a coat of arms maker on Google
Okay.
that you could use, and it's so easy to make a new banner. And I don't know why that was such a big deal for Zach to do, but the problem is he promised a lot of things to this guy, and the guy was really he's a really good guy. He let a lot of it go. There was a lot of things that he wanted. He let it all go. But one thing he wanted was an aspect of his banner. He had like a castle and two swords, and that's all he fucking wanted on his banner. Um, so Zach was hoping that he would forget about that banner or all the ideas that he wanted. Um, so when it came down to it, when he kept pushing about it, that's when Zach would get a little irritated with it because he just hoped that he would forget about it and settle with the banner that we had already made for that faction. Um, Even though Zach let him make his own lore, so I don't know why he couldn't make his own flag. It might not seem like a big deal, but when you're promised something to join a faction and leave your faction to join Atria, we got to follow through.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just as simple as that.
it seems there was a deal there, and not all the sides came through. Well, I guess I guess the new clan they came through, but weren't given what they were promised. I guess you're saying.
Hmm.
Um, Now I guess the psychologists, there are no psychologists probably in the audience, but the people who talk about psychology say that the problem is not the problem. The problem is never the problem.
Hmm.
Do you know if there were personal disagreements or like DMs that could have set this clan leader and Zach against each other that like did this kind of banner issue was more the effect of kind of a previous thing or something more underlying that maybe wasn't in the leadership chats?
I'm not sure about their personal DMs. Zach wasn't really the best at messaging back in DMs, so that was kind of my job is to relay messages to him, and kind of try to get things done that way. So how I kind of did it is I told clan leaders like, hey, if you need anything while you're in Atria, message me and I'll get it done for you. For a while that worked, um, but then when it kind of got to a point where Zach just kept saying no, 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 it was really hard to, look these guys in the face and say, hey, we're gonna work on this and I'm gonna get this done for you and stuff like that. I just felt like I was lying to them to bide our time. Um, when these are just things that should have been done way, way sooner, and it's not hard things to do at all. Um, we made all the leaders got together. There was like 8 of us, right? We got together. We made a list for Zach to complete, and we gave him a timeline.
Okay.
Um, and basically said, hey, if you want to keep us, you'll have to do these things before the timeline. He didn't really like being cornered like that, and really showed his true character. And yeah, I applaud the leaders that stayed 3 more months after that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that meeting was the fall of Atria. That was the start of the fall of Atria. And I tried to explain that to Zach. I tried to explain it to him like, hey, we need to do these things or we're gonna lose people. And he's just very like, yeah, whatever. If they leave, they leave. And that's just not what I was in Atria for. That's not the vision or the mission I had in Atria. So I didn't agree with that at all. I think it was kind of fucked up to do something, promise things, and then not do them. Um, you can only look at someone for so long and tell them like, yeah, I'm gonna get all these things done for you, and me having to be more diplomatic because obviously I don't want to let the other leaders know that me and Zach are having problems. Just
Okay.
doesn't look good internally.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so just having to
clans
sit
don't
there and
want
lie
other
to them.
clans drama.
Yeah. So, and when I say other clan, I mean like the clans that are within Atria,
Oh, okay. Okay,
because
yeah.
they are clans within Atria. They're supposed to have their own leadership and stuff like that, and it works.
Do they have their
We
own
just have
like
to have a good
councils and
team.
stuff like that? Like, are they
Yep.
given
Yep.
okay, and they can do their own banner
Yep.
calls and everything?
Yep, they're a baron. They'll have a captain. They'll have a sergeant, and that's their leadership staff. No other baron, even me being second in command, I could not go to a baron and tell him what to do to a certain extent, right? Obviously, if there's a problem, I'll be the kind of person in the middle. If there's a dispute between two barons, I'll be the person in the middle. That was mainly what I did in nature. Is like we made a joke. We called it the HR department, and that was my job, is to settle disputes.
Yeah, so you were like the diplomat for external and internal.
Yeah, yeah, and it really put a toll on me, man. Like it really burned me out of the game a lot. So when I went to VK, I was already burned out. So it was really hard for me to get back into the swing of things. Because every day it was an everyday thing. It wasn't like once a week we had a problem. Like every day there was me trying to either defend Zach's way, or uh, just kind of tell them, hey, just got to give me more time and I can get this done for you.
And would
But
you
then
say
when I'm
all of
trying to work
this
with Zach,
during this time, like at your peak level of stress and productivity, was the Atrian clan like at its peak of membership too? Did this
yeah,
correspond? And
yeah,
when was
we
this
were pulling 100 Atrians per event.
per event? Yes, okay. I remember going to some of those events, and Atria was, well, maybe not those events because I don't know when that intersects with my timeline here, but I do remember going to Atria events that had like just most of Atria, just like the whole tab list, scroll and scroll and scroll. So yeah, I remember at least the vestige of those days, if not those days themselves.
Yeah, and it was kind of sad too, because most of those other leadership guys, I call them my friend, so it was hard to tell a friend like, hey, things might not go your way, um, because of this, and this, and they they had very simple requests. It wasn't like they weren't asking to be the fucking king, right?
Yeah.
Um, or they weren't asking to take the mod. And by the way, I also, this is kind of fucked up, but to even have a good opinion, for Zach to take my opinion on how we should run the mod, I had to pay him $50 a month for the server. Because that was his problem, is he was like, I put in all this work, so I'm gonna be the one to make the decision on these things, not anyone else. So I'm like, okay, well, if you want to play that game, I'll pay $50 a month for the server, and that way I can have some fucking say around here.
Well, Les is asking you where is his $50 a month?
Yeah, if he can only see, it's right here. It's my middle finger. That's where it is.
Oh, yeah, right between his index and his ring finger.
Yeah. So, and I mean, with Les, he's a dictator. Don't get me wrong. If he says something in VK, it's gonna go. That's how
Yeah.
it's gonna go.
I mean,
But
I feel like there's a common I guess like a people assume that you should just hear the word. Okay, this is gonna get clipped out of the wrong context. People assume you should just hear the word dictator and think they're a bad guy. Dictator literally just means the guy who talks.
right,
And
it
that's
does.
literally every administration of clans in NA, because it's one guy usually, and he has a few guys leading with him, and then most people following. So accusing someone of being a dictator and people thinking that they are just like a bad guy automatically. Let's start getting away from that fallacy, because that's
Correct.
all kings, by the way.
So yeah. But at least with Les, he heeds the advice that his leadership gives him. That's my thing. If you're putting people that high up in your leadership, their opinion matters. There's a reason that they are in that position, and it's to be listened to. If you don't listen to those people, they're gonna leave. They're not gonna be there and just. I mean, it was sad because a lot of those guys were getting burned out. So all these new clans that are coming out from Atria, those leaders are just so much more happier. When I talk to them, it's like they're a new fucking person. Atria was just draining the fuck out of them because they couldn't get anything done, and they were doing it for the community. And
Mm-hmm.
Zach says does these things for the community, but he really does them for him. He has zero concern about what the community really thinks about what he does and how he does it. He's even said that before, in a meeting. I was like, hey, it was something about restructuring how the rules or how we did things in the event, and he was like, you know what, if they don't like it, they don't have to come to our event. And this is quote for quote, we don't
Okay.
have there is no other event like us. So if a clan wants to leave our event, they can do that, and when they die off, I'll recruit their members.
Mm.
So that's kind of his standpoint on things. Now there's like three events that are, I'll say they're copying Zach, but they're better than his event. But that was at that time, that was his thought process: is what are they gonna do? PB's dead. We're the only person that has an event. Um, his guys are just gonna get bored if there's no events going on, and they're gonna leave and join us.
Okay. So my next question is, it seems like the leadership styles and the kind of the clash of interests. You have these minor clans who are leaders. They're responsible for giving their players content and creating an environment that they all like, while still kind of obeying the orders of a king and kind of following the larger direction of his plan, right? Um,
Mm.
the the breaking away of these smaller clans from this like larger, I guess, I don't know if you want to call it an empire, but like just bigger kingdoms. The breaking away of these smaller groups, these maybe sometimes individuals that don't like the way it's run and they just go off. um it seems like the conditions there and in a lot of places cause community members to flee. um and my question to you is, how do we get those players to stay around the community and not just go play other games? Because I'm sure they like Bannerlord, they just don't like the politics, they don't like the drama, they don't like the toxicity. How can we give them a place to go after? Because if you're leaving somewhere like VK or Atria in the previous era, you don't know where to go because other
Right.
clans don't make videos, other clans don't have PR posts. Some do, but they're hard to find. How do you give those players and groups a way to interact and keep their community alive? Because I'm sure maybe a lot of those clans left Atria. They're like, okay, maybe we can find a better spot somewhere else. And before they find somewhere else, they just die out because they just don't have
Yeah.
anything to do.
Well,
So,
well, most of those clans that left have made their own clan or have merged with, like, one of those clans that left Atria merged with VK, and
okay,
most of those clans, like, I'll say the clans because they're, just the clans. House Cedarfall was from Atria. HRBH was from Atria. They're doing very well right now. They're prosperous. They made their own clan.
okay,
A couple of those other guys played in a different multiplayer scene, so they kind of went back to that multiplayer scene. But there's always going to be somebody that doesn't agree with the way a faction is being ran, and they're going to leave,
hmm,
and that's just what's expected. But what doesn't happen is a clan that's 100 men strong and then going down to 10 people active in 3 months. That doesn't happen. There's a problem. There's a problem within that clan that not everybody can see,
yeah,
and that's the main issue. Is, we need to really protect the experience of those new players and those faction leaders, or the leadership within your own clan. And that's the only way we're going to be able to save those people from leaving and then dying off.
good, good, good. Yeah, I mean, I definitely would not encourage clan leaders to be like, hey, here's how like our entire system works, here's everybody and their entire jobs and everything like that, because it's a waste of time and you don't need everybody knowing everything. But if clan members know at least the big picture of what their clan leaders are thinking. You know, if they actually have an opportunity to speak with them. I know some smaller clan leaders always have the luxury of speaking with their members and having a relationship, whereas bigger ones would love to speak with their members, but there are just too many of them. Uh, for those people, for these bigger clans, or just ones that are not small, um, just I guess from what he's saying, just make sure your community is actually a community, like they know what you're thinking, and that the decisions you make actually represent what is in their best interest. Even if they don't like it, if it's in their best interest, then they probably won't pick up and leave en masse. And that's not a message to Zach Atria. That's just to everybody. I've had I've had other games where people leave because of a decision I made, which I thought, was just good. It wasn't in their best interest. They left. I understand now that I shouldn't have done that, but the point is, you have a responsibility as a leader, and if the community is going to get better, then the players have to hold the leaders accountable as much as the leaders lead the players to where they should be going, because there's a
I agree.
balance in that. So, please continue.
So yeah, I guess we could still get into some of the reasons why those leaders left.
Okay, so yeah, so the situation you're talking about, where you and other leaders kind of gave him that list in that time frame, this was how many months ago, or maybe years ago?
End of December 2024.
End of December 2024, and this most recent kind of exodus happened at what point? Maybe a couple weeks ago?
Uh, Probably beginning of March.
Beginning of March. Okay, so this was about 1 month ago, approximately. What was
Yeah.
I guess, so that was what you just laid out, the foundation of it, the kind of history of it, underlying causes. What were the more immediate causes, the kind of, what is it? The straw that broke the camel's back, is how you say it?
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I had to deal with was Zach wanted. He's not going to call it like this, but I'm going to say it like this. He wanted to punish leadership that is getting too big within Atria. So there was one faction that was getting too big in Atria. It was about 30 people. They brought 30 people to an event, and
Okay,
then
and
they
and
also
and
had a
before
bunch
you
of other
start,
people.
would you?
Yep.
I will ask if you'd like to name them, but is there any restriction on the like levy size, or is there any kind of explicit or implicit kind of implication that you should not have a bigger rally than the king, for example, or it should not be above a certain number or a certain percentage?
So there wasn't,
There was
right?
not. Okay.
That was the issue. That was like the main like fuck you is you know they're recruiting for their house within Atria, and in turn that also means Atria is getting stronger. But the problem is that Zach tried to do that nobody agreed with. I didn't even agree. I didn't even have his back on this, and I was meant to be the guy that had his back and explained why he was doing things this way because I was just better at explaining it to people. But I just couldn't get behind this. So we had one house that was really strong, and if they're strong, Atria is strong, right? Does that make sense?
Of course, yeah. I mean,
That's fair,
the
right?
chain is made of individual links.
They're gonna have Atria tags on when they join the game. So Zach wanted to basically punish those leaders that are recruiting a lot and getting their people, and he said basically, okay, no, if there's a house that's struggling to recruit, we should send those recruits over there. We shouldn't allow them to get too big. We don't want one house to have 50 and another have 10, but they're all individual clans within Atria, so why does that really matter? Um, so it wasn't so much as a discussion. It was more of him forcing that clan leader to uh, get rid of some of his members and put them in a different house. And that's just not what our structure was. When I'm lying to these people when I'm doing merges and saying that, oh, you'll have your own clan within Atria. The only person you have to answer to is Zach, right? The problem with that is I was lying to them. I lied to a lot of people that were doing the merge because I was just trying to get them in Atria, and because I thought I could make a change. But yeah, when a lot of the promises that I made to those guys, I knew wasn't going to go through. But I was trying to change Atria, and I hoped if I had more people at my back that maybe I could make that change. But it just wasn't the case. So that's what I tried to do, and that's what was also another push factor for those leaders to leave is getting punished for being too big within Atria, and it's just really unfortunate that I had to sit there and deal with that. But at the end of the day, we made promises to these people. We can't just tell them now that they're too big and they're doing too good that they have to split off their forces and those guys join another house. Because what's going to happen is they're going to join another house. They're like, oh, I don't like this house. I like my other one. They're going to fucking leave.
Yeah, I
And he
mean,
was okay with that.
if you're just gonna be kind of put in different groups outside of your will, then you might as well go somewhere where you can join a group at your own will. So I understand that.
Yep.
Brendan Winter Nelson is in the comments. He says, and the problem with that was people were close with the people in their barony, and they would be forced to play with people they didn't want to.
Right. That was the whole point of the leadership structure is because here's the problem. I'll say this for VK. Here's the problem with VK. If Les is not going to be at the event, half of his members are not going to be there. So
Makes
that's why
sense.
Atria is structured the way it did is because we want people to play with their barons, right? We want their barons to be the people that they want to play with and that they want to be recognized by. Almost nobody would be recognized or would recognize Zach, and that's how we wanted it. We didn't want people to get on because Zach was getting on. We wanted people to get on because their Baron was getting on.
Yes.
And that's why it worked. But when it didn't work is when you're telling someone else, oh, the King's barony is too small, so you have to join the King now. That's no, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and I think there are plenty of historical examples of central planning, trying to micromanage aspects that are naturally organizing
Mm-hmm.
is kind of, there's something unnatural about it, and people tend to shy away from that as much as they can.
I do want to comment on something that Zach said. He said that I left. He was talking about me in that podcast, by the way, guys. When he was talking about one of his leaders that left. He said the reason why I left is because he wouldn't be a figurehead. Well, that's partly true. We agreed to take some of the. It was for him though. It wasn't for me to take power. I already had the power and all the responsibilities. I just needed him to step back so he could focus on the things that we're trying to get done because he's the main person that updates the mod, adds skins and all that stuff to the mod. He's the only person that could do that, right? He said it was really hard, but it's not. I think he was just trying to keep us dumb because he didn't want to teach us how to do those things. And the HRBH cookies event is a very good example of that. He put that event up in 1 week, and every faction has custom armors and skins, like fully customized armors and skins, not just some little quote unquote custom skin that Zach put in. It's very easy to do. He just didn't want to do it. So, yes, that was the agreement that he would be a figurehead, but it was for him so that he could focus on that stuff, right? Because he's a micromanager, and micromanaging stresses you out.
It does.
And we could tell that he was getting stressed because he tried to manage everything.
There are some control freaks I've seen, and they tend to be the control freaks tend to be more likely to gravitate towards leadership, but they tend not to be as successful in leadership in the long term.
Mm.
I don't think
And he's an
Zach is.
example
I
of
don't
that.
think Zach is like a total control freak, because they usually tend to make mistakes that disrupt the clans like very quickly. But there are people kind of like me who are very organized and have a little bit more control freaky tendencies than is healthy. And I like micromanaging, honestly. Like when I
Mhm.
was a clan leader, it was in CS:GO, by the way, what I'm alluding to. When I was a clan leader, I liked micromanaging. It was great. It made me feel good, and I like to see the success that you putting it from paper to the game server and actually getting the score because of something you thought of in your head, days ago. It's a great feeling. But maybe in Bannerlord, it's not the best thing to do. In CS:GO, it works a little bit better. But that's not any commentary on what Zach did because I still don't know,
Right.
the whole side of, I wasn't
Yeah.
there. But I get what you're
Well,
saying. I get what you're saying. It's not the right way to run a at least a retinue system within a clan.
right. And another problem is he was always the no man, right? He was always the person that said no, 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 and that was a problem for the other leaders when they're trying to implement their ideas, which are good ideas, and it's beneficial for the community and Atria together. But like I talked about before, Zach didn't really care about the community. He doesn't do this for the community, um, and that's just the simple fact. So the problem is he would veto everything. Everything that came up, it would be vetoed. It'd be simple stuff like, we need to make the captain armors more distinguishable so that people can rally faster. He just wouldn't do that. Right? He just said, "No, you have a flag. That's enough. That's enough for you." Um, and so we had a kind of like ticket system for new ideas, but we had so many tickets come in that all just got vetoed no. So I'm like, why the fuck do we have this if you're just gonna say no to it anyway? And he has this strange belief that if he recruits a leader, that he's responsible for the rest of the recruits that he got. Right? That's why he can say these things is because he recruited you, and whoever you recruit, it's because of he recruiting you. It like what? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Okay.
So he feels like he has more say over things because he recruited you and you did all that work. So he's taking credit for your work because he recruited you.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I know some clans where I think that's kind of an extension of what happens in a lot of clans where you have like a lord or a baron or like a sub king under an emperor, and anything that the king's court produces is like credited to the king. So anything like the mage or engineers come up with or write is kind of attributed to the reign of the king because he was so good at leading people.
Mm-hmm.
I get that kind of aspect of it, but maybe yeah, it's when taken to its logical extent, it may not work when translated into the valor of battle because you can't take credit for
But
someone
yeah,
else's
but
fighting,
you
can
also
you?
don't tell people that. Like that's just not something you say to somebody.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, like in 2025.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a question for you. Maybe we
Yep.
can make this a little bit of a debate, or if you agree with me, just I guess an overview. And if the comments, disagree, we can have their opinions as well. Um, in fact, I see Les is over here. If he disagrees with one of us, you might even hop into VC and join the stream. Anyway, I will go over the comments first, and then I will ask you the question. That will lead into our debate that we've been kind of laying out here. Um, so far, it's been pretty civil in the comments. I've been looking back every now and then. Um, no, I don't think anyone's asked any questions or anything like that or said anything too out of pocket. Which is great. Bannerlord community is sane and competent and not dumbasses on my stream. So thank y'all. The question I have for you is about the structuring and I guess leadership of clans in NA. Um, we can break it into two if you want, two scenarios of like how it is now and how it should be with like more players and more events in the scene. But we can get to that after I actually ask the question. I'm kind of rambling here.
Hmm.
The question is, with regard to the structuring and leadership of clans, should you do you support a retinue or like sub lord based system, or should it be mostly unified with a singular leadership and I guess the main council of people that have special jobs?
You know, it really did well. I can't lie and say that it's not good in Atria because obviously they were 100 strong, right?
Yes.
And but you do run a risk of doing something that they don't like and them being able to leave because you know they have 15 guys within your clan. But at the same time, why wouldn't you want to appeal to, you know, their wants and needs to keep them? Like, are they not important enough to keep and to keep growing your community? That that just doesn't make any sense to me. Why
Exactly.
you wouldn't heed any of their advice? And they're not idiots. Obviously, they're in their position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, like they play mind games as good as anyone else does, so they know how, humans work to some degree. They speak English, so, and they fight well, so they have time to put into to studying and playing. So it's interesting how they make some of these decisions. But it's the reason I ask is because I look into history sometimes, and you see this constant like effect, especially in pre-industrial ages of the the establishment of a domain of a territory of some sort of a under a government, and it individually manages everything because it conquered everything, right? And then it leaves
Mhm.
some little provinces or some little territories or some little castles to its vassals. And that is a good enough system for having a lot of, space, covering a lot of area, but in over time the vassals get more powerful, and the more vassals you have, the more powerful you are against, external threats, right? But the more vassals you have, basically the more unstable you are, and you're probably going to get rebelled against, or they'll just leave, or they'll work against you, or work against themselves, and it causes drama. We've seen that in Bannerlord. It's human nature. It happened in history. It happens in these Bannerlord servers. Just we're the same people, by the way. The question I'm asking you is, in a right now, the ideal clan leadership style, should it include this retinue system, and you said it does help with numbers overall, but for long-term stability, for growing a clan, community and keeping it stable, do you think that it should include the system, and if so, how much of it?
Yeah, I do think it should include it. Obviously, to get over a certain amount of members for to actually implement it. But I mean, let's take an example of the. I'm going way off of Bannerlord, but
Go for it.
let's take an
I was just
example of
referencing like
our.
6th century history, so go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, true. I mean, let's take a look at our, U.S. military and how it's structured. It's structured pretty much the same way. You have a platoon and you have a squad. I mean, it all works. You all have those little leaderships, the small unit leadership, and that's what you really, really need when you get over a certain amount. The fucking 5-star general can't command of all the fucking privates in the military. Uh, he needs his leadership and his help. And when they say something, it's probably needed to be heeded. You probably need to listen to what they're saying.
Okay, so I mean, okay, so you're saying depending on the numbers, different levels of structure and hierarchy are necessary.
Yep.
Um, so let's see, do we want to put numbers on it? Like say not like a scale of each step, but do we want to say at Atria's level, because this is who we're talking about, this is the center of the conversation. The implementation and holding of this sub-vassal system that obviously has its great benefits and its great risks, as we've all seen over the past couple of months, right? And we've had laid out over the past 4 episodes. Um, the the system that we're speaking about, we we can say that 100 people is enough to justify having this hierarchy. My
Mhm.
question to you is, was the hierarchy that was there more detailed or less detailed than it should have been, or was the problem spherely, I guess, what is the word? Purely and only with Zach's administration of it? Or do you think it could have been, some of the issues could have been solved with more or less of that hierarchical separation? That's my question. Sorry
So
it took so long to get there.
yeah, 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 I understood it. So it was very detailed, and we structured it to work, and it worked. But where we have problems is when you try to go against the grain, right? When you try to go against uh, the structure that we've made. Um, for instance, when a leader wants something done, mind you, most of the shit that got done in Atria was because I didn't ask Zach to do it. I just did it, and if he really had an issue with it, he could delete it off the Discord or delete it from the uh, uh, development of Atria, right? He could just take it off. So that's the only way we really got things done is if I just did it. But where a problem comes is when another leader tries to do it and they go through the right steps to get Zach to approve it, and it doesn't get approved. That's where it kind of falls apart right there. But overall, I think if you have a clan of 30 people, you should split it down the middle. And then when you get to a clan of 60, you should split that. And then when you get to, a clan of 80, you split that. So you should make your retinue system based off how big you are.
Okay.
Uh,
So
just kind of start small and then move up.
it sounds like from 15 to 20 members you're saying should be the number of like a retinue that one Bannerlord leader holds nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. There's just a lot to manage. And we've proven that small unit leadership works in the
Oh
Atria
yeah.
events.
I actually
Uh,
just released a video of it. If you wanna, if other people in the audience want to go to my channel, not now because it's a live stream, share it with your friends. But later on, there is some small unit command things that I released a video about earlier. But continue. Sorry.
yeah. So how Atria did it is we have our small unit leadership. We consider them barons, even though they're pretty high up there in leadership. They'll lead their own group in their own VC, and we're in a team speak, and we have a marshal. That was my main title, but with all my jobs that I did pass on the military marshal to somebody else, which did a very amazing job. I linked Squanchy's YouTube in the share the socials in the
Yes,
description.
that's on the screen right now in the bottom left. If
With
you wanna hit up all those.
Squanchin in here, that was the marshal. Very good guy. So that one person would kind of lead the smaller units and kind of structure them based off the dynamic of the battlefield. Uh, so that's kind of how it worked. Now, where the problem came in is Zach was not good at the martial part. We lost a lot of battles, bad decisions. Um, but that's overall how it's structured. There's still that person that you have to listen to, just like anywhere. You can't really get away from it in this community. You're gonna have to listen to somebody or make your own clan and struggle for a little bit. Um, but yeah, I mean it works. You just have to know how to play it.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. It'll depend on numbers. It depends on competence. Everything like that. Uh, there's a question from the audience I'm gonna read, and then, or a comment from the audience I'm gonna read, and then I have my next question for you, which relates to this previous topic. Um, Brendan Winter Nelson says there's a alternative universe where Les let me be a day Harless like I asked.
Uh-huh.
We bought a EA Sport House mansion for Bannerlord, and everyone lived happily ever after. If there was a Bannerlord content house, I think I would accept an invite if I would be so honored to receive one.
Yeah,
Um, it depends though. I'd have to get background checks on all y'all because I don't know what y'all got.
right.
Yeah, but yes, the maybe we can have a big reunion and everyone lives happily ever after, and we all put everyone donates to the same Patreon, and we buy some land out in Nevada for no particular reason. Okay,
Yeah.
so my next question is related to the this topic about um, leading and managing like subreddit news and everything like that. Uh, right now, there are the main kind of things that the NA Bannerlord community plays are PB, the line battles in NA and EU, and occasionally like the TDMs, or like captain tournaments that people put on. Uh, do you see any use for other types of game modes in Bannerlord? And do you think it will affect like the skills that leaders need to complete the objectives in those game modes? Do you think any would be useful? I know like Call of Duty has like a shit ton of game modes, and there's not really a plant the bomb in medieval era. But do you know of any other types of things that people might want to mod in? If there's any modders out there that need ideas, or if Tail World is listening ever and they want to implement
Ever.
something new, yeah, ever. Um, yeah, anything on your mind?
Yeah. I think we already have all the tools necessary. Uh, we do a great job with the modding scene and all that. One thing that I do think needs to be played more and uh, is skirmish. VK's made their own personal bot for skirmish for their own personal members. So that's one of our like selling points to joining VK is we have a skirmish bot. You can play skirmish and get better. But I feel like there should be a skirmish for the community for people who aren't that good and want to improve because skirmish is a really good resource to use to improve. TDM is not. TDM is running around and swinging a sword. Um, Battle events are not. There's too much going on to focus on what you actually want to focus on. Battle events are just block and attack. There's no real skill that goes into it to a certain degree. Obviously, like if you know how to play a battle event, you'll probably do pretty well. Um, but yeah, skirmish needs to be utilized a lot more. And it would really like Tailwords has a skirmish mode, but it's not used at all. Um, and I feel like there should be maybe like community Discord where people come and play skirmish, and you can be ranked differently. So obviously, if you're in a bronze rank, you probably shouldn't go against a platinum rank. And yeah, that would just improve the overall skill set of the community, and maybe even get people to come in because there's games like Rainbow Six Siege that still gets new players every single day because of the competitiveness and the opportunity to get better, and you can also track your progress.
So you'd say the NA community should invest more into skirmish instead of kind of branching out into new modes?
Yeah. I think we have all the modes we need that makes sense. But skirmish needs to be utilized a lot more.
Hmm. I think in the first episode, Les mentioned a roadmap for NA. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Brendan Winter Nelson asks, have you ever seen Les's roadmap for NA? I genuinely
I
think
have.
it's the best roadmap by any leader.
Yep. It's a roadmap for the community,
Hmm.
um, to improve it and overall improve like the numbers that we bring to multiplayer. Like for example, I think we talked about this before. Let me see real quick. Right now, there are 21,000 people playing Bannerlord currently at this very time. There's
And this
21,000 people
is
in
what,
game.
noon on a Wednesday, so middle of the week, middle of the day.
There's 21,000 people, and I'm going to be very generous when I say this. 3 to 4,000 of those people are multiplayer people.
Yep, more should be.
So, and if we talk peak time, there's probably 30K, and that's 20,000 people of people who are just playing single player right now.
Brendan also says the biggest issue I see is that I fear the community will never be at peace. I really think that. You really think that? Okay. Well, okay. Here's the thing. I asked before about Zach. Is there a way that Zach and Classy can be reconciled? I've asked about having Zach and Les on at the same time. I those episodes, if they go live, they'll probably if they get 200 viewers, if they get two viewers, I'll be happy because if that conversation happens, if they get in the same VC and we're able to kind of share um, a disciplined conversation, maybe invoking the name of God, who brings peace, right? Maybe we'll be able to get Les to listen to the arguments of Zach, lay out their grievances. Um, Zach could maybe put aside his prides and whatever previous impediments he has, and we can have a conversation. We can fix this shit
Hmm.
because Les has 300 fucking people in NA.
Yep.
Zach at one point had 100 fucking people in NA. Gage and KOTF, I don't even know how many people he has. He has a bunch. Um, a whole bunch of these other clans that broke away. I don't even know their names. Why don't I know their names? That's a shame. That's a crying shame that I don't know their names. That needs to be fixed. And these past four episodes of this podcast, which I don't disdain. I appreciate actually that they've been coming on, but the fact that most of the NA public conversation has been the relationship between VK and Atria is
Yep.
yeah, I mean it's something that uh gives us a goal, right? And the goal is the next 6 episodes of this show, let's make it who else is there in NA? How do we get everybody else to participate? What are the impediments to bringing more people in and getting those people raised up? Uh so so yes, Brendan, I think there is a possibility for peace. Maybe it's hard. Maybe it won't be in my lifetime. Maybe not my lifetime. Maybe I'll die in five years. I don't know. But eventually, I think there can be peace if we work at it. We have a goal, right? We have a roadmap, right? I'm sure in that roadmap, maybe I mean, I haven't read it. I don't think in that roadmap there's any part that says, make sure we kill Atria and none of their players participate in Bannerlord
Very
anymore,
true.
right? Is that in there?
Nope.
No,
Not at all.
okay, that's not in there. So there's no part of VK's plan that says we have to exclude some members from the NA community. There's no part of anyone's community, I think, that says you have to exclude these people. That's probably in a lot of servers where you can't do that. It's an explicit rule. Um, so
And I will say, around the time that we got kicked from the Atria event, we were doing our own event. We stopped doing it because we were focusing on our red versus green mod. But we didn't create the same rules that Zach did, right? We said, if Atria wants to come to our events, like they're more than welcome to.
okay,
So we are not here to exclude anyone. And when it comes to Zach coming talking with Les, I just Zach just always has another ulterior motive, and I don't think even if he does do that, one I already said Les is going to dominate the conversation, and it's just going to be
perhaps.
Zach's not a very good conversation topic talker, but um, I just don't think he'll be very honest. He's not a very honest person, and he doesn't have the community's best interest in mind to even have a constructive conversation about repairing the community or repairing the relationships in the community.
Okay. Um, well, maybe that's true.
And I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong about that.
Maybe we will be proven wrong one day. Brendan says, and then I'll move on. Man, I've known Zach since 2016, but yeah, Zach is a issue, but it's the silent majority that still have issues. So there are
Yeah,
other
you
people
spelled since wrong,
within.
Brendan, but good try.
That's fine. I understood it. We all
Yeah,
speak
I'm
English.
fucking. I know it. I know, Brendan.
um, So, yes, I did highlight kind of the leaders themselves, but he mentioned that there are people within the communities that have issues with these, so it wouldn't
Mhm.
be as easy to solve the problem like with an instant.
Yeah.
Like if the leaders just
Yep.
agreed to shake hands and bury the hatchet, that would be great. But I guess we'll have to see if we are going to solve the problem and not have it just out there in the open forever. then we'll have to see what those issues within the community are, and maybe get those perspectives and see how we can reconcile those, with the situation we have. So to move on just a little bit, I wanted to ask you about oh, I forgot the question. It was a really good question too. Let's see. Okay, well, just tell me what you think about what I just said previously, and I'll probably think of it in a second.
Yeah, I agree. All the leaders really just need to come together. The problem is right now is all the leaders use their event besides Cookie. I will say besides Cookie, I'm excluding Cookie from this.
Okay.
Uh, the one that leads the HRBH event. Um, they all use their event as a diplomatic tool, and they basically say, like when I was in charge of the Atria events, I tried to get Getty, the LGIX leader, to join the Atria event,
Okay.
and he would always want something in return. He would always want us to play PB, and most of our guys didn't like PB at the time, and it was PB was pretty much dead. It was only like maybe peak 100 people, and it was just really toxic anyway.
Okay.
Um, but he wouldn't show up to the event because we wanted to go to the PB events, and I don't think that's good for the community if you're using your event as a diplomatic thing. It just ruins the community. So now they'll get this kind of notion. They'll just be like, "Oh, you don't want to join my event? Well, I'm not gonna." And whatever. That's the end of that. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't want to. I don't want to play. So
So they started using their kind of community as a form of like diplomatic exchange.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They always wanted some kind of exchange instead of just doing it for the community. And all these leaders say, "Oh yeah, we do this for the community, for the community." But when it really comes down to community, they don't really want to do anything.
Yeah. Okay, so I
So
did
I think
remember
that
my
needs to
question.
change.
My
Yeah.
question to you was, well, I'll preface it by saying episode 2 was FMGK from Tall. He said
Mhm.
that Mr. Les was a little bit Machiavellian. Machiavelli, in his famous book, The Prince, said you should either be friends with the guy or absolutely destroy him. Right? Now,
Mhm.
if we are not going to try to destroy Atria from the VK point of view, not we, but y'all, um, is there any, I guess, do you think, in your personal opinion, that there would be some way to coexist, maybe? Because, like, say, just taking for example, and then we can extrapolate it later. Taking for example PB, if you're both on the PB server, right? VK mentioned that y'all don't kill the commoners, y'all play sometimes just the regular guys that sit, develop your own shit, right? Phaedra joins, maybe they conquer the seas. They build a bunch of boats. They go and trade and conquer basically all on the coasts. Is there a way that those communities, in other places, in other games, can both be in the same community, in the same place at the same time, and enjoy what that is without kind of targeting each other? Do you think that we can get to a point there pretty soon?
I think so. I will say VK does have a friendly list.
Okay.
Basically of all the factions that play PB. In our diplomatic standpoint with them. And actually, Atria is under the neutral category for that. So we definitely are not singling Atria out, and we don't necessarily want the destruction of Atria. Uh, Now, if Atria falls on its own, whatever. That was on them. They didn't want to take anyone's advice. They didn't want any help.
They
Um,
mentioned that they take it less seriously now than they used to.
yeah. I mean, VK's moved on from the whole VK thing or from the whole Atria thing.
Hmm.
We've completely moved on. We have bigger fish to fry than to deal with Atria. Even when they were 100, we really just didn't care. At a certain point, it just a little too much to have to deal with. We're just gonna focus on making ourselves better and helping
Makes sense.
without having to wish destruction on another uh, clan.
Well, I guess then we'll have to ask these same questions to, I guess, Zach's side, see if he's willing to kind of put the past behind him too, and work toward larger community prosperity. We'll have to ask these questions of the community. Apparently, there are some people that have problems that aren't Zach and Les, so we'll have to get their side of it and help solve their problems. But yeah, good points you're sharing.
Yeah,
Um,
Les brought a good point in the comments that I'll touch on is, we would go to the Atria events and just completely stomp, the Atria, and so that's probably another reason why Zach probably got frustrated and didn't really want VK there. He tried to kind of handicap VK a couple times. Part of the handicaps would be like completely outnumbering VK or not giving them cav because their cav is too good. Even though Atria has a request system for cav, it's not like he assigns it himself.
mhm.
First come, first serve. Um, so yeah, I mean, is it needed? Maybe VK needs a couple handicaps, but when it comes down to that's the only thing you're focused on in your mod that has a lot of problems, it should really just open your eyes.
All right. So what have we gone over? We went over who you are, like what your kind of gaming background was, your position in Atria, your move to VK, some of the reforms in VK, and then we talked about the Atrian kind of rise and fall, the kind of more current consequences of previous foundations that were set.
Yeah,
And
let's get
then
something on the record too, since you're going over that.
okay.
I know FMGK was a little diplomatic about uh, is Atria a dead clan? They're dying. They're on their last leg right now.
Well, the common
Nobody
consensus
else.
seems to be that Atria always like comes back like a phoenix. It seems like it's
Right.
happened from what I've heard 3 times, and I think they're on
Four times.
their fourth iteration right now.
They're in their fifth iteration.
In their fifth. Okay.
So that's very true. I'll give Zach that. He bounces back. Definitely takes him a while, but he'll come back. But I just don't know how you have that happen to you 4 times and you don't want to change anything that you do. Just I
And you
don't
would say,
understand it.
does the general policy, is it like a copy paste from iteration to iteration, or because I mean, it's hard to believe that people would come back if all the
Yeah.
messages and the rules were from the same date, and all the people that left were like, oh, we kind of hate that guy. And if all the stuff is the
I
same, if the philosophy is the same, then why do people
yeah.
come back, right?
I can't speak on that because I just simply don't know what the other reforms were. Um, but from what I do know is when we restructured, it was going really well. Zach was taking advice and we were moving forward with things, and I was in charge of training and development for Atria. So it was going a good way, and then out of nowhere, he flipped the script on it entirely and forgot about the whole vision that me and him both had. So I just, yeah.
Okay. So, and this happened about where in the timeline?
When we restructured the first time,
Yes, yeah.
oof, man, that was like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
So between
When we
2.5 years ago and 4 months ago, there were
Mhm.
four restructurings. There was four kind of exoduses and then
No,
rebrandings.
not in those 2 years. It
Not in those two
the
years.
the four restructures have been over like maybe the last 5 to 6 years with different people in my position each of those times.
Oh, okay. Okay. Gotcha. That's interesting. Interesting.
So yeah, we rebranded, I should say, when I first joined, and that's when I was given the leadership, and then we restructured. So we rebranded to kind of change the name because at the time Atria had made some bad decisions before my time. and I had to kind of mend those situations, and that was my main job. And Zach's not really that because he's stuck in his ways. It's just one of his qualities. That's just how he is. Um, so that was my main job. I changed the name of HR. We're there for new people, for the community, by the community, that kind of stuff. Then we restructured into the barony system, into the feudal system. And then after that was going well, that's when everything started going downhill with the vision that we created, and Zach was going a different way, and I just couldn't pull him back.
Okay. Yeah. Um. So. So I think. Let's see. And where did we leave off at? I guess we left off at 2025. So from the start of 2025, Atria has been, I guess, you would say dwindling. And then they finally had that last explosion, and then since they've still been apparently going strong. I mean, apparently their server is still. I don't think I'm in their server, but or I think I am in their server actually. I haven't
Yeah.
seen. I don't really go to it, but I haven't seen many pings from there. I don't really know what my notifications are set to, but um, yeah, there is. There's a lot of new clans, which at one point makes me happy, but at another point I know that it'll probably result in like so much more drama in the future because these clans are probably going to break away and then want to do some more reforming and breaking, and there's going to be like these types of stories happening more and more. But maybe there won't. Maybe people will be competent. Maybe this episode or the lessons learned by the people here will be that leave your in the server shit and out of the server shit separated. And if you have out of the server shit, solve it like an adult. Even if you're not an
Hmm.
adult, solve it like an adult because you know how to do it. We live in a civilized society where we can talk about our issues, we can solve them um, if we apply the correct remedies. Um, but yeah, from the VK side, from your side, it seems like you're resolute. You have everything figured out. You know how you feel on most things. You have a plan. And I guess maybe you haven't forgiven everything, but you've forgotten at least the deeping over it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've moved on, but I definitely wanted the truth to be out there. After the episode 3, I just didn't want that to go on as what the standpoint of Atria and VK, because uh, Les and FMGK and Zach have to be diplomatic. They're leaders. They're major representatives of the innate community. So I understand where their diplomatic demeanor was.
Okay, of
Um,
course.
but I'm here just to air it out. I'm here to say what they wanted to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is probably what's going on in the players' DMs. So if we can say it here, then it won't be in the back of their minds when we're actually having the serious conversations later on. So it's a necessary conversation.
Yeah, good point, Tosco.
Yes, Tosco says, agreed. The player base shouldn't suffer just because two leaders are beefing.
Yeah, and that's where it kind of contradicts what leaders say when they say, "Oh, we do this for the community. We want our community to be better." Just because you have a problem with a leader doesn't mean you should punish all of his members. That I don't know where this started. I know this started back in Warband, where just because you have that tag on, you're associated with them, and they're the reason why the beef started, and it just doesn't make any sense. Why punish the player base for your dispute? It's just petty, childish. I just don't understand it. We're all grown men now. Back in Warband, we were 15 years old, so it makes sense that we acted like that. But
And,
now we're all grown ass people,
and
and
don't
we need to
forget,
start acting like that.
I hope there are none of them listening to this right now, but there are kids in the Bannerlord community. There are 15 years olds. There's 17 years olds, and they are sadly, in modern society, they get a lot of their attitude and a lot of their behavior from the people
Yep.
they are around, which is you, because you are playing these games with them. You're in their VCs. You're commenting on the videos they make. So the example you set is going to affect those people, and it affects you yourself because what you do kind of follows down into the future. So everything you do affects society, even when you don't like actively try to do it. And that has consequences for the future generation. So if you want Bannerlord to be better tomorrow, start acting good today. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't say,
Mhm.
"Oh, I'm gonna say these slurs and I'm gonna do my insults. I'm gonna get it all out of my system today," because you're just gonna want to get it all out of your system again tomorrow and then want to do it the next
Right.
day. So fix it now. Be a better person now. And
Yep.
that's to me. That's to Classy. That's to all the clan leaders out there. That's to all the players who are on day one or week one or year 10. Um, Set a good example for these kids out here, because you don't want them to lead a clan and then fuck up and then ruin the community because you decided to say whatever you wanted in the VC. That's all I wanted to say. Sorry for ranting. You please continue.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It creates a bad representation of our community, and that's one of the goals and visions of K currently is, we want this to be a community where people can come and play, no matter their skill level. I mean, we would prefer if they, learn how to block, and VK can definitely train that. Um, but yeah, I mean, just we gotta do it today.
Do it today. And to some degree, we were debating about the positives and negatives of the retinue and the sub lord system earlier. One great thing is, I mean, one of the first Bannerlord multiplayer videos I ever did was having a lord of another clan um, train me and actually
Hmm.
teach me how to block and hit at the right times and move at the right times, and that's the only reason I'm like able to survive long enough to shot call now, because I had that foundation. So, and he did it with a smile. He did it with some jokes, um, and he made me feel better about myself because I was actively trying to get better. Encourage what you should encourage, and what you shouldn't encourage, leave it alone. And that's the lesson for today.
I agree.
Is there any other points that you wanted to get through before we close out?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything, got into the nitty gritty of things, and made the truth known.
All right, and then one last note from Les from VK. He says, "I will never bar my members from playing in any other event." Super cringe. Super cringe. It is indeed. So, may God be with you all. Have a great day. It is still the morning, so you have the day ahead of you. Do something productive, do some push ups, and then grind to get your stats up in Bannerlord because you
Yeah.
all need them.
I do have a closing remark.
Go for it.
VK on top. VK's the best. Join
Ay, ay,
VK.
ay.
We're good.
It's all of
VK,
you.
VK. I'm sorry.
It's an infectious disease. It's just automatic as soon as you join the
VK's the
server.
best. VK's the best.
They only have two keys on their keyboard. That's a fun fact. That's why they're so good at blocking and attacking. They're so good with the mouse because they only have two keys on their keyboard, V and K.
Exactly.
Good God.
Yep.
Good night, y'all.